Throughout much of my life, I have been on the hunt for great quality samurai video games, which until recently was actually a pretty hard task. As someone who never grew up with a PlayStation for which most samurai themed games came out, I was stuck with what games either came out for PC or Xbox. Finally, I can now say I have accumulated a solid library of samurai games, which leads me to want to make videos reviewing them, discussing their strengths and weaknesses, what makes them good or what makes them bad, while also taking a look at their historical accuracy. So, with that said, the first game I figure I should probably review is Total War Shogun II, which is not only my most played game on Steam, but also the game I use when recording all of those battle scenes you see in many of my videos. Now, Shogun II has been out for almost a decade at the time of me making this video, so I'm sure many of you have already had a chance to play it. But if you haven't, I want to start out by discussing Total War games in general, so you can get a better idea of what the game is like. Total War games are very different than most strategy games in that they don't consist of your typical base building, exploration, and conquest mechanics made popular by games such as Age of Empires. Instead, you are tasked with ruling over a country during a certain period in history. You need to maintain and manage your cities, armies, politics, and trade, taking turns to enact your decisions as you embark on a grand campaign to conquer the map. The best aspect of these games being the real-time battles that truly require a strategic mindset, causing you to deploy your army in the best way to defeat your foes, relying on infantry, archers, cavalry, and various siege units, all inspired from actual history. Total War games also offer historical battles as well, allowing you to play out real battles that occurred throughout world history in a very unique and cinematic fashion. And I shouldn't forget to mention, but the art style and music of Total War games is seriously some of the best in the business. The first Total War game I ever played was Medieval II, which is still one of the best Total War games to date, giving the player a massive grand campaign encompassing hundreds of years with an incredibly large map full of countless regions to capture, and allowing you to play up to 17 different countries, all with varied and unique troop rosters. The campaign is where this game truly shined, because it was extremely detail-rich. You truly felt as if you were leading a nation, being able to view your family tree and leading your sons and other generals into becoming legends with amazing statistics. Not to mention the amazing pre-battle speeches your generals gave, taking into account your previous battles against your enemies, the state of the war in general, and also ruthlessly insulting your enemies to no end.
They would fill bestiaries as yet unwritten, and good scholars would blush to record their perversities.
They truly served to hype you up before the actual battle began. There was also the addition of the papacy, in which the Pope would become heavily involved in political matters, giving you missions to complete, while also risking the consequences of failure. There were also impactful world events, and the terror of the inevitable Mongol and Timurid invasions, which would rip across Europe, eradicating all in their path. It was truly a very dynamic and unique game that rewarded hundreds of hours of playtime. What followed Medieval II was a severe setback. Empire Total War, which on paper is a fantastic concept, a total war game set in the 1700s as nations around the world set out to further their global ambitions. Unfortunately, this game was a mere shadow of its predecessor, as many core features were simply stripped away, leaving this game to feel hollow and lifeless. There was no more family tree. There was only a handful of playable factions while tons were still in the game regardless. World events were gone. Cutscenes were mostly removed. Voice acting was mostly removed. There was no more overarching element like the papacy. Siege battles were an incredible mess, and pre-battle speeches were completely removed for no good reason. However, it did still have some charm, and shined in the areas of its regular land battles, technology trees, and trade mechanics, thus allowing plenty of fun to still be had. Yet it was easy to see which game was the more feature-rich game and complete experience between the two. The Napoleon standalone expansion to Empire did much to fix many of the issues plaguing Empire, while also introducing some new concepts that would be carried onto what was to come next. In 2011, we would get Total War Shogun II, a sequel to the original Shogun which came out in the year 2000, starting the Total War franchise. Of course, for me, the hype was real, with this upcoming Total War dive into feudal Japan. However, I was still cautiously optimistic with how things had gone with Empire. The game we got blew every expectation out of the water. Many, not all, but many aspects from Medieval 2 made a return to the game, along with the good features from Empire and Napoleon. Most notably, family trees, cutscenes, full voice acting, the overarching element of the Shogunate, much like the papacy of Medieval 2. Siege battles were no longer a mess, the pre-battle speeches were restored, world events were brought back, and the campaign was incredibly feature-rich, including tons of new content that was introduced. Generals and agents now gained many of their traits and abilities through leveling them up, allowing you to fully customize each of your generals and agents. There were the updated technology trees too, a system which Empire introduced but was greatly improved upon in Shogun II. The trade system from Empire was taken and expanded upon as well, bringing back foreign trade posts, but also expanding key strategic resources that could be traded between clans. We received a new in-game encyclopedia for looking at the various buildings and units that could be created. Notoriety was also new, as your increased might would cause others to view you as a threat, eventually resulting in the Realm Divide, where you were now declared an enemy of the state by the Shogun. Speaking of the Shogun, you were also now able to take the position of Shogun, which was a huge new addition. In Medieval 2, you could work a priest into becoming a cardinal, and hopefully later, the Pope. But in Shogun II, you could actually take that higher up leadership position for yourself. I should also mention, new combat animations also made battles far more fun to watch, along with the blood pack, which allowed for fun new gory details. The polish in this game was immense. The main Shogun II campaign starts in 1545, getting towards the middle of the Sengoku Jidai, when some of the more famous leaders of the Warring States period were just setting out to make names for themselves. The game offers you 12 playable clans, 9 being in the base game and 3 being downloadable content, with each clan receiving a certain unique bonus to their playstyle. For example, the Takeda have superior cavalry, while the Hojo construct superior castles. However, it's here that I want to offer my first gripe with the game. It makes me somewhat mad that we only have those 12 clans to choose from, when there are so many interesting clans in the Sengoku Jidai. I wish we had a much larger selection. What further frustrates me is that they included clans that were completely anachronistic to the time, most notably in that of the Tokugawa and the Hattori. I also take minor issue with the Iko-Iki, as the game starts them off with both full control over Echizen and Kaga, which, although they did have religious sway over both of those provinces, this choice to start them off with Echizen completely removes the Asakura clan from the game. But getting back to the good, this game also offers several fun multiplayer modes in addition to its single player. That is, if you can still find anyone to play multiplayer with anymore. But of course, I cannot forget to mention the 2 additional DLC campaigns. One being The Rise of the Samurai, a campaign set during the Genpei War, allowing you to play as the Taira, Minamoto, or Fujiwara clans as they vie for control of the country in the late 1100s. The other being the extremely popular Fall of the Samurai campaign, which takes place during the Boshin War of the late 1860s, allowing you to play as either a Shogunate-aligned clan or an Imperial-aligned clan, while going through modernization and industrialization, wooing over foreign nations for aid, and possibly even breaking away to establish an independent republic. It's truly a beast of its own. However, for this review, I'm going to continue discussing the main Shogun II campaign. The game tries to incorporate many key aspects of the Sengoku Jidai, be it from the different agents such as the ninja, the monk, the Mitsuke, and the geisha. Unit types ranging from mobs of Ashigaru to samurai to even historical legendary samurai units. There is the introduction of Western Nanban trade, which brings Christianity and firearms. The game also allows you to create vassals from defeated clans, An element from previous Total War games that is a welcomed addition, because each territory owned by your vassal clans counts towards your own overall province count. And there is of course the goal of the conquest of Kyoto, the seat of the Shogunate, where once you take and hold the capital for a full 4 seasons, you will then be named the new Shogun. Shogun II has all the proper elements of a great Sengoku Jidai game, yet I'd be lying if I said it doesn't also falter in some spots. Another complaint I have about the game is its lack of famous samurai leaders. Sure, we get plenty of big-name daimyos, Takeda Shingen, Uesugi Kenshin, Oda Nobunaga, etc. Yet we do not get any of the famous samurai who served these great lords. We don't get any key figures such as Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Akechi Mitsuhide, Sanada Masayuki and Yukimura, Tadakatsu Honda. The list goes on and on. I know these games are supposed to be alternative views on history, with how you choose to progress in your game. But still, it's sad to see many of these key figures be left out of the game completely, only to be referenced by some other hero units. Don't get me wrong, it's great to have an amazing general with fantastic stats that you have poured tons of hours and battles into. But it could be so much better if that general was an actual historical figure, and not just some guy with a randomly generated name. Another odd gripe I have is the evolution of firearms in the game. Not particularly to your clan, but to other clans. The game lets you receive firearms in 2 ways, either through building a Western Nanban trade port, or through working your way down the tech tree. This is fine. However, the player is really the only one to ever really utilize firearms. Instead, other clans will continue to rely heavily on amassing tons of elite bow samurai, which are of course still very deadly. It just rubs me wrong that by the time you reach the year 1600, most range units in armies still remain to be bow units, when in reality, firearms had pretty much taken the place of all bow infantry by the year 1600. However, it is reassuring to know that there are still tons of well-made mods that can fix these issues, giving the player access to various different time periods. My personal favorite being the Sekigahara mod, which starts the game in the 1590s and gives you access to roughly 20 different clans, all with unique units. Difficulty is another thing I take issue with, yet this is more of a complaint for all Total War games and not just Shogun II. Total War game difficulty doesn't cause the AI to think more strategically. What it really does is to make yourself more of a target for other clans. Thus, playing at higher difficulties will simply mean anyone you ever come in contact with will immediately want to destroy you. So really, unless you want a pretty bad headache, I feel Total War games are better just left on normal, so that they can be an enjoyable mixture of both challenging and rewarding. The final major gripe I have about Shogun II is probably the most important of all, it being the realm divide I mentioned earlier. When your clan eventually becomes the strongest and largest in all of Japan, or you march on Kyoto, whichever comes first, the realm divide event will occur, where the shogun will label you an enemy of the state, causing literally every clan to get a massive negative effect on your relations, called the realm divide. This ruins all of your relations, from your most trusted, long-lasting, and loyal allies to even your own vassal clans. In time, everyone will hate you and will declare war on you. And while, in theory, it makes sense that the current shogunate and also other clans would want to see your downfall, it doesn't quite make sense historically or realistically. In real history, when great clans rose to take power, be it the Oda, the Toyotomi, or the Tokugawa, there were always clans who backed them, supporting them through all of their conflicts. They were never fully alone. Thus, it makes no sense for me that your closest allies and vassals would simply abandon you in this difficult time, when they should be the ones who stand by your side, supporting you against all odds. Especially when your clan should be the more intimidating threat, being now known as the strongest clan in all of Japan. However, one interesting detail about the realm divide takes place after you secure Kyoto and are proclaimed the new shogun. At this point, any new vassal clan you create will now no longer be given the negative realm divide factor which ruins your relations. This allows you to once again start gaining new allies once you have become the new shogun. So, in conclusion, even though it runs into its fair share of issues, be they massive or minor, I still feel the game heavily delivers on being a fantastic time and a pretty solid depiction of the period. I give the game a 9 out of 10, with it being just shy of near perfection, yet still coming out as one of, if not the best Total War game ever made, as what would follow Shogun II would be, well, more messes. In the future, I plan on also reviewing another samurai strategy game, Nobunaga's Ambition, Sphere of Influence, a game which can be compared to Shogun II in several interesting ways, yet also goes further in many aspects as well. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and found it to be most entertaining.